Hello again. I'm not going to discuss whether the idea of man-made climate change is a sensible one in which to believe. I'm open-minded about that, although I must confess to being a little sceptical. What I do find slightly alarming, though, is the fact that children are being persuaded about this idea by means of some very dubious and in some cases downright false claims. If the phenomenon is genuine, then why is it necessary to lie about it? This is odd. A friend of mine is a teaching assistant at a school in London, and she told me about a recent lesson at the primary school where she works, which was devoted to getting children to believe that homes in Britain are at risk from rising sea levels caused by global warming. This was about a month ago, and the teacher ran a regular current affairs session in which the class watched news items and discussed them. There had been something that week, this was the end of February, about some homes in Norfolk which had been on a cliff top and the sea had eroded it and they were in danger. Some of them had fallen off the cliff. The session that week was about the way that the coast of Suffolk and Norfolk in the east of England are being eroded, homes are falling into the sea, and it was all being attributed to rising sea levels caused by climate change. Anyway, a couple of clips from television news were shown to the kids, and then some text from the Sky News, including the piece in the description to this video. It is headed, Norfolk beach closed due to risk of homes falling into sea. And there's an account of what's happening, and it ends with the following. Repeating devastating scenes. In 2018, homes in Hemsby were evacuated amid fears they could also be washed into the sea. Homes were also damaged and washed into the sea as the biggest tidal surge hit Britain in 2013. Which resulted in houses being ripped from the cliff-top position as sea levels increased. This is all supposed to be connected with rising sea levels due to the polar ice caps melting, of course. As sea levels increased, the teacher also used copies of this book called Weird Weather and Changing Climate, What's Happening to Our Planet and How You Can Help. Now on page 7, we learn this. Ice caps at the poles are melting fast. Sea levels are rapidly rising and heat waves are scorching the land. The hurricanes that sweep across oceans are supercharging and catastrophic rains are washing away farmland and towns. I'm not sure how many towns have actually been washed away by catastrophic floods, but we'll leave that for a moment. The difficulty I have with all this is that it relies upon both concealing facts and inventing lies. In the case of the houses on the coast of East Anglia, their falling into the sea has nothing at all to do with rising sea levels or global warming or anything. This process has been going on that part of the English coastline for centuries, long time before the Industrial Revolution and global warming was supposed to have begun. At one time, there was a very big port there called Dunwich in medieval times. Some viewers might have heard of it. It lies beneath the sea now. It disappeared in the 14th century. On the other side of Britain, the opposite process is taking place. That is to say that the sea is actually receding and land is appearing. When Harlech Castle in Wales was built, it had a water gate which opened directly onto the sea. Now, a few centuries later, the castle is up on dry land. It's a mile from the sea. These are just geological processes with no connection at all to do with climate change. In fact, southern England is sinking lower rather than the sea rising as a result of the last ice age, which ended thousands of years ago. Scotland and northern England, on the other hand, are rising. That passage I read out earlier suggested that the ice caps melting are causing the sea level to rise. And we see here, I wonder if anybody can see this where it says iceberg melt. It's an experiment which children are supposed to carry out. It says, fill a glass with water and ice cubes. Mark the glass to show the level of the water. Does it rise when the ice has melted? This is complete nonsense. If you try the experiment, which I actually did with my daughter years ago when she was little, and I repeated it today just to double check, you'll find that the water level remains exactly the same in the glass when the ice melts. Of course it does. Water expands when it freezes, and so when it thaws it takes up less space. If the whole of the Arctic ice cap melted tomorrow, it wouldn't raise the sea level by so much as a millimetre. So if sea levels do rise, it's because the water in the sea is expanding because of the warmth. It's got nothing to do with melting ice caps, which is nonsense. I have no idea at all if global warming is real or not, but if it is, then I can't see why it should be necessary to make up stories in this way. Surely just sticking to the facts would be enough to make the case.